data center construction, one of the major ones is the availability of skilled labor and the quality of workmanship in the field. You probably heard the expression that you could have things fast, you could have things cheap, you could have things done well, you could pick 2 out of 3. And we're going to talk about why that's not true, and you can have all of them. One of the major hyperscalers a few years ago reached out to us and said we have this problem with torquing on our sites. We have incredibly high rework rates because of it, and can you help us? And what we found is that it's very similar to what we saw in oil and gas, is that the standard in the industry for torquing is paper torque logs. And there's a lot of issues that come from that when you're trying to manage a increasingly complex supply chain on paper. These are for high voltage electrical connections, busways, switch gears, things like that. So what Cumulus does is we get rid of the paper. We digitalize the whole process. We guide workers through each step of a procedure. We connect to all kinds of different tools via Bluetooth to actually set automatically what the torque settings are supposed to be, and then pull the actual torque values achieved, so that you're not only guiding the worker through what they're supposed to do, but then getting confirmation that the work was actually done properly, automatically generating torque logs, not from a person using pen and paper, but from the data we're actually getting from the field. We're very widely deployed on more than 2 gigawatts of data center capacity built. Over 300,000 voltage connections have been managed in our system. 0 arc flashes on any of the modules where our system is used, 90% reduction in reported torque issues, and complete traceability. You both think about the concept of the triple constraint, or the quadruple constraint that we talked about, that trade-off of cost, quality, schedule, and safety.
In today's data center world, you don't have that choice anymore. It's all 5. So safety and quality are really, in my opinion and experience, are enabled for delivering cost efficiency, cost predictability, schedule efficiency, as well as sustainability. And that's how, as an owner, we have to be viewing that.
Tools like this are going to help at least eliminate part of it. It's part of the quality. You can't beat schedule if you don't have the quality.
When I first came into the data center world, I was a bit appalled about safety. Think about 30,000 arc flashes across the U.S. yearly, and somewhere around 7,000 very, very significant injuries to those folks that are working in the field. So to me, this kind of ties back to why safety is basically non-negotiable.
One of the pain points for us has been, we tell our subcontractors, especially the ECs, what's going to be expected in terms of documentation. To get to that scheduled timeline turnover.
So the challenge is, it's never there in time.
So with that information, does that Cumulus workflow start in the factory and continue on and handshake over to the GC and then maybe eventually go to the ops team?
The advantage of the system is that everybody's reading from the same songbook. Somebody sitting at the job site can look at the application and say, this is everything, every person that touched this connection from the moment it was first born until today and what happened to it. So it helps the quality people, it helps the people doing the installation, and if there is an incident from a root cause analysis, you have that data of who touched it, what did it look like when it was touched, and what happened to it.
And what's been your experience with being able to get people trained up on using this tool?
To train a worker takes under an hour to use a system. It's anybody who could use an app and who can connect to Bluetooth headphones to their phone is able to use the system. You're getting that live data from the field the moment that person starts working. And you're understanding how long it's taking them to do their work, how accurate they are. If for some reason they're outside, they're an outlier, then you can deal with it.
So is that useful to the owners and the construction managers on site to not wait for the weekly OAC meeting, but to be able to have a dashboard that shows percentage of reports?
Absolutely. I have to have that early in the process. There's a huge value to the owner that, whether it comes from just verification, and they're going to have that as relied upon data from you and I to make sure that they can operate that data center over the life cycle of the asset itself, right?
So Matt, you mentioned that not just electrical bolt torquing, but what other torquing applications has this been used for? You said piping sometimes?
A ton of work in piping, with all kinds of critical voltage connections, structural steel connections. And there's a lot of work we do that's not even, bolted connections is just one of the main things we do, but pressure testing, electrical testing, all kinds of, pretty much anything where there's a critical workflow that has to be followed, and there's documentation that has to be part of the turnover as part of the commissioning, you can track with the system.